you ain't good, man. You ain't never fucking arrived. And that's just my mentality. You may have more, but you never fucking arrive. You want to be uncommon amongst uncommon people. Period.
Let the band play.
I grew up as a relatively healthy kid, but something happened when I was 7 that caused me to gain 50 pounds in 3 months. My mom said it was after I got like 12 immunizations at once, but the bottom line is something was way the fuck off with my body. So I went to a few different specialists, and finally when I was around 8, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And the doctor told me after he ran some tests that if I stayed on the same trajectory, I'd have to start taking insulin for the rest of my life. But the problem was that I literally could not imagine that future. You know, even at that young age, I knew that there had to be some alternative route. And that's when my mom suggested I go on something called the Atkins diet, which is basically just a low carb diet, kind of like the ketogenic diet. And so, you know, a few months later, I went back to that doctor and he ran some more tests. And after everything came back, he said that I didn't need to take insulin after all. I just would have to start taking this medication called metformin. Now, fast forward about 4 years later to when I was 12. And with the right combination of diet, exercise, and medication, I was actually able to cure myself of this disease that doctors told me initially that I might have to take insulin for the rest of my life. But it was right around this time that I hit puberty and I started having horrific cystic acne. It was so bad that I couldn't even wear a white t-shirt because it would just inevitably end up getting stained with blood or pus. And so eventually I ended up seeing a dermatologist, and he prescribed me a medication called Accutane, which is kind of like the atomic bomb of medications that can be deployed on acne. And it worked. I'd say my acne cleared up by about 90% or so. And the only side effect I had to deal with was extremely dry skin. But as soon as I went off the medication, you know, a few months later, my acne actually returned. And I was so upset because my self-esteem and my self-image was just being absolutely decimated by these pus-filled cysts. You know, I absolutely hated how I looked, and I honestly felt like I wasn't even worthy to be loved. But I knew that just sitting around and crying about it wasn't really going to do much good. And so shortly after that, I came across this book called The Hidden Cause of Acne: How Toxic Water is Affecting Your Health. So the book went on to explain that some people develop cystic acne whenever they consume fluoride-containing products. And so if you simply remove those products from your diet, the acne would actually go away as well. I started thinking, you know, since the body is made up of 60 to 70% water, you know, wouldn't it make sense that when you drink polluted water, it would manifest itself in, you know, polluted acne-prone skin? You know, it was simple enough to just try a simple experiment. And so I started drinking only purified water without added fluoride, and I stopped brushing my teeth with fluoridated toothpaste. And within 3 days, my skin, you know, completely cleared up. And it was the first time in years that it had ever been like that. But by now, my back and shoulders had already been significantly scarred alongside my self-image. And to make matters worse, I was still skinny fat with man boobs. You know, for so long, I thought that if I just lost enough weight, you know, my chest would finally look normal. But no matter how much weight I lost, even to the point of getting a fucking shredded six-pack, my chest still wasn't exactly how I wanted it to be. I was extremely distraught because even after putting in, you know, months of dieting and cardio, it was still to no avail. It's kind of like when you're balls deep in a cut, you know what I'm saying? You've been on the cut for the past 6 months, shit starts getting real, bro. And so out of all my flaws, having man boobs was my biggest insecurity of all time. I mean, like, what could be more emasculating than having boobs as a man? And why was this fat so stubborn on my chest area? I remember back to a conversation I had with a doctor when I was younger, who was explaining to me that, you know, since I was going through puberty, it was actually normal, and that once my hormones stabilized, my chest would go back to normal. But what if my hormones never actually stabilized? You know, I immediately went out and I got some blood tests, only to find out that my estrogen was about twice what it should have been, whereas my testosterone came back at like 430 nanograms per deciliter, which is like the equivalent of a 60 to 70-year-old man. So I started researching ways to naturally balance my hormones, and within 2 years of experimentation, I was actually able to double my testosterone and almost half my estrogen levels. And as I naturally rebalanced my hormones, I noticed that my body composition started to improve, as well as, you know, I started storing less fat in my chest area. And so by now I was 22 years old. You know, I had been on the self-improvement journey for 14 years, but I never even had a single girlfriend. You know, I was still a virgin and I never even kissed a girl. But I guess dealing with being super overweight, to having acne scars, to having man boobs, to stuttering, which I also had to find the antidote to as well. But, you know, I won't get into that in this video. All those issues sort of completely annihilated my self-esteem and my self-image. And it's kind of like, god damn, like how much can you pile on top of a fucking 8-year-old? You know, from the time I was 8 to 22, it was kind of like I was fighting a war just to get my body, you know, back to normal functioning capacity. And so I had hyper focused so heavily upon these perceived flaws that they were really the only thing that I could see. And so even though there were girls that were interested in me, I rejected myself before they even had the opportunity to. But one day I met this girl at Target during my orientation, and she was explaining to me and, you know, probably 4 other people that on our time cards, only the last 2 letters of our last name are going to show up. And so she looked me dead in my eyes, into my fucking soul, and she was like, since your last 2 letters of your last name are H-O, you're a hoe. And the audacity to say that to me in front of everyone while she's hosting this orientation, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of turned me on. So long story short, she ended up giving me very clear signals that she was interested in me. And of course I was interested in her after she fucking roasted me during my orientation. But I was scared to take things to, you know, that next step, because I still had this voice in my head telling me that, you know, she was going to reject me, because I had spent so long hating and rejecting myself that, you know, I thought she would do the same. And so at this point, I basically ghosted her for a few months until I built up the courage to actually ask her out. But once I finally did, I found out that she actually had a boyfriend. And so when I found that out in that moment, my heart actually broke. Of course, I didn't show any weakness because I'm a fucking G. But, you know, over the last 10 years, I had numerous crushes, but I had never asked any of them out. You know, I spent those 10 years rejecting myself and trying to work on those perceived flaws to try and make myself worthy of love. And so once I, you know, took this momentous step to finally open myself up, it was like my love wasn't even able to be reciprocated. And so this was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. Looking back on it though, she was actually still down to smash. I was just too righteous of a human being to disrespect her relationship like that. So it's kind of like, who's the hoe now, Melissa? But through this experience, I learned that I just needed to allow myself to be human. You know, for so long, I tried to cover up and eradicate all of my flaws when in reality, no one is perfect. And so, you know, as I worked to be more humble, I realized that, you know, it's only when you accept your flaws that you give yourself permission to move beyond them. So as I've atoned for my sins and gone through this process of enlightenment, I've actually fucked numerous bitches. So now that I'd accumulated all of this wisdom and knowledge, I wanted to be able to give back and, you know, help others who may have been in a similar situation as me. Because the truth is that we're all capable of so much more than we think, but sometimes we just need that special someone who truly understands effective communication and who is willing to, you know, give us that little push for us to start fulfilling our true potential.
A girl go. I'll shoot her! I mean it! I'll blow her head off! Have we got anybody here who knows him, who's close to him?
I'm his wife.
Good, good. I've got your wife here, Harper.
So I started saving up all the money that I could for like a 6-month period, eating only, fucking protein oatmeal and eggs so that I could still hit my macros while crushing my fitness goals, to finally be able to drop $5,000 on this mentorship program to build my online fitness business. But even though the program had all of this great information and I was surrounded by fucking champions making 5, 10, even 20K a month, I still wasn't really seeing any results. That old feeling of never feeling like I was good enough, which is sort of like a double-edged sword because it pushed me where I'm today. It came back to haunt me in this new area of life, which was business. And so there was still something a bit off with my mindset, and I was still a bit lost and confused. And so in order to get my mind back on track, I started talking to Goggins. Goggins sits wearily in his chair as he stares at his maps. For weeks, he's been strategically planning his next attack on the enemy nation to try and minimize casualties while maximizing the destruction of the enemy forces. He realized that due to the terrain, he could force his enemies into a narrow crevice while surrounding them on all sides, but the enormous pressure of being held responsible for thousands of lives of soldiers has begun to weigh Goggins down. He's been second-guessing himself, and time is running out for him to execute and pull off this ingenious method of attack. Sensing the lack of time, General Hamza bursts into Goggins' war room, quickly looking over his plans. "What are you waiting for?" Hamza says. "The strategy is flawless, and now all that's left is to put it into action. A genius idea is useless without the courage to act on it." A jolt of energy rushes through Goggins' body as he wakes from his daze and recognizes the truth of Hamza's words. Rallying the troops that 2 out of the war, flawlessly executing the plan, decimating the invading forces, and saving the kingdom from destruction. So this got me thinking, what if I had been unnecessarily stressing myself out over being a perfectionist when I could have just focused my efforts on executing a plan and then adapting myself to whatever roadblocks come about along the way. This way I'm able to keep the momentum going rather than falling into the trap of overanalysis, which can only lead to paralysis. And so if I really wanted to reach the epitome of success, I realized that I just needed to sell my soul to Hamza.
Die!
He doesn't.
You will die!
Sylvester! Okay, yeah, he's pissed. We should probably go. Come on. It's like he's possessed by a demon. I don't know. I'm so sorry about this.
If I simply followed in Hamza's footsteps by taking massive action, then I would have no other choice but to see massive results. And so this was when I said fuck it, and I just created my YouTube channel. I'm sure Hamza had his doubts when he first started, but he was like, fuck that, I'm building my empire and I'm not gonna let some bitch ass thoughts stop me. Because guess what, if you listen to bitch ass thoughts, then you're just gonna become a bitch ass person. So I just had to look myself in the mirror and be like, Zion, do you really wanna be a bitch ass motherfucker? And so once I gave myself that motivational pep talk and I created the video titled Hamza Was Wrong, How ProFab Saved My Life, my channel started getting all these views, and now I'm at like 100 subscribers and my channel's gotten over 10,000 views. And I know you're probably like, bro, those are some pussy ass numbers. But to be honest, you gotta celebrate the small wins in life. And the point is that I've, finally gotten the ball rolling and I'm building momentum. And I truly believe that, it's only a matter of time before I build my tribe and, I start changing people's lives. Because to be honest, I've met all the prerequisites. I was able to cure myself of type 2 diabetes, double my testosterone, fix my estrogen and thyroid, cure my acne, and even in the face of the low self-esteem I had acquired from all of these issues on top of stuttering, I'm still out here jumping on sales calls, pulling numbers, and crushing it in the fucking gym. To be honest, I think that that's probably, the number one thing that I'm proud of myself for on this journey, because I could have just been crying in bed, woe is me, crying like a little bitch. But to be honest, nobody wants to hear that pussy ass shit.
I'm just hurt. Late nights, I just cry.
Instead, I decided to be a real life alchemist, turning all of these roadblocks into stepping stones for my inevitable success. You gotta have the flexibility of mind, body, and spirit to not let whatever life throws at you knock you down and keep you down. You gotta be able to bob and weave, and when you do get hit, you gotta be flexible enough and not too rigid to be able to let those impediments just slide off of you. And the ultimate goal is to be able to transmute all that negative energy, your fears, doubts, insecurities, and worries into something positive. Alright guys, so I hope you liked that video. Drop some comments to let me know your guys' thoughts. Subscribe. And if you want to go deeper into the sort of mindset that has allowed me to, overcome these obstacles that have been put in my path, feel free to check out my free mastermind guide. The link is going to be in the description. And yeah, that's going to be everything. I'll see you guys in the next video. And as always, keep dreaming while you're awake. Peace.
You ever wonder what it feels like when dreams bleed into real life? Seen scenes from TV get realized. Palm trees, a soft breeze, and chilled ice till tides wash away our problems in the spilled wine.